Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Afdalu salatu wa atimmu taslim. Wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa sallam tasliman kathira. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah. Wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa sallam tasliman kathira amma ba'du. نسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى أن يمن علينا من نعمه جل في علاه. We ask Allah to bestow upon us His grace from His many types and forms of grace, His blessing upon us. ونسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى أن يثبتنا على الحق. We ask Allah to make us grounded, stable, and upon the truth. ونسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى أن يحافظ علينا في ديننا ودنيانا. We ask Allah to protect our worldly life that we have to live, transcending from the life that we're in now to the life of the hereafter. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the provision in the life of the hereafter. Ameen. Today, Shal Tabarak wa ta'ala, would have been part 14 of the series we're doing, Wahhabism, Politics, and the Black Man in America. But today, inshallah, Tabarak wa ta'ala, which is our regular schedule that we have negotiated and humbly sacrificed to derail it because of the importance of that topic, we're going to go back to some points from the Shu'bah al-Iman, in which we didn't get that far because of the many details of the first branch of Iman, which was belief in Allah. In the hadith of Abu Hurairah, when the Prophet mentioned 70 something branches, وَأَعْلَاهَا قَوْلٌ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ, and the highest branch of that Iman is the statement, the Shahada, La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, wa adnaha, Mada, and the least branch, Imatatul Adha Ali Tariqi, and the least, the lowest, the last branch of Iman, the least amount of Iman will be reflected in the one who moves something harmful out of any pathway of the people. And then the Prophet said, "What haya'u wal haya'u shu'ba min al-imani," and that this haya'u, this type of action, is in itself a branch by itself of Iman. The ulama, they said haya'u. I remember hearing Sheikh Muhammad Abdul Hamid Mufti Munir, Hafidhahullah Ta'ala. I remember listening to him on this Q&A, Hadith Disciples. Actually, no, it was a talk he did in Great Britain. Him and the young Sheikh Uthman Farouk from Berkeley, California, who got into the fight with a white racist guy from the Aryan nation and told him, "Get out the car, you punk." And he fought with him and they stabbed him, but he didn't get hurt too bad, mashallah. That segment they went to UK with Sheikh Abu Osama. And in that talk, Muhammad Munir, he mentioned, he said, there's haya'u with the hamza, which is translated as shyness. And then there's hayatu with the ta marabuta, which means something live and moving, life. So he said that the scholars said that, get this right because I mess up a lot, man. I don't have a paper in front of me. Working off this mind of my memory. He said that Hayatu, which is life or movement, like we said, Hayatu Dunya, the life of this existence down on earth, meaning stuff is moving. That word Hayatu and the word Haya'u, which is to be shy or to be afraid or embarrassed, to be out of pocket or to be in a shameful way or to do something to upset or offend your Lord or to upset and or offend the people. He said the word Hayatu comes from Haya'u. That this type of life and movement comes from Haya'u, which the Prophet said was Haya'u shurba bin al-Iman. He didn't say what Hayatu and life is shurba bin al-Iman. He said the other Haya'u. And the Shaykh explained, he said, because without this type of element, Haya'u, and the scholar said again, the Haya'u here doesn't mean that person is quiet and bashful. That's some linguistic meaning that comes with it. But the real meaning of Haya'u, they said that means a person is apprehensive, afraid, reluctant, to be in any situation in which Yushinahu, he will be put in a shameful light, or Ya'ibahu, something that will be a blame on him. So if you take that meaning, if that's a part of Iman, then that means the whole life of the Muslim, your whole existence as a human, Hayatu, is from that. That's how you're supposed to move, just because the word Haya'u comes from Hayatu, which means movement. But from that movement, you gotta be someone who's afraid to be shameful. You gotta be someone who's afraid to not only offend or do something that Allah don't like, but it also transcends down to being afraid or being embarrassed to do something that people don't like. So you can see the magnitude of the Prophet's statement with Haya'u, this type of mentality, shurba min al-Iman, it's a part of existence by itself. Moreover, the Prophet said it's like a part of Iman that's in a category by himself. SubhanAllah. So we used a lot of time on that part, belief in Allah Azza wa Jal. We didn't do much about the names and attributes. We just skimmed over it. So the 13 sessions about the Asma wa Sifat, if you go back and study those that we have on this Marcus Safinatul Nur on the imamshaykhukkahsah YouTube, this is part of the belief in Allah that goes with the first pillar of Iman, belief in Allah, all these issues of Asma wa Sifat. It's connected. When you talk about the second pillar that Imam Bayhaqi mentioned, which is belief in the Rusuls, the Imam bi Rusulillahi Azza wa Jal, and we said he switched the order. If you read any ayah, any hadith, it goes Iman billahi wa malaikatihi, his angels come second, wa kutubi, his books come third, wa rusulihi comes fourth. But Imam al-Bayhaqi rahimahullah took the Rusul, put it after belief in Allah. And the reason he did that, and it shows you his fiqh, mashallah, his understanding and his extractions of the religion, not that he changed the ayat, because this is what the Sufaha Juhala would say, the ignorant and the foolish would say. They themselves would say, okay, look, Imam Bayhaqi, he's Ashari, and they said that. And we brought from Imam Bayhaqi's books himself, especially the one about the Asma wa Sifat, refutation upon them
the Asha'ir, refutation upon the Qadriyah, refutation upon the Jahmiyyah, Mu'taziliyah, and all of those groups that change the meaning of the Sifat, at least, or they just deny it altogether and claim we're Ahlul Sunnah. He brought refutation against all of them. That same Bayhaqi, this is his book, al-Iman, he moved the fourth one to be second. Why did he do that? Because without belief in Allah and His Messenger, you can't even get to the Malaika. The Malaika, without them, the messengers couldn't have got the message. But us, did we meet Jibreel?
No.
Did we meet Mikael?
No.
Did we get any information from Jibreel?
No.
Who got information from Jibreel? Alayhi salatu wasalam. Who got information from Jibreel? And all of them gave information to people, the prophets and messengers. Every prophet that got a revelation, he got it from one angel. Who was it? Jibreel. So for us, if we were to believe in Allah and the angels, but disbelieve in the messengers, like the Quraniyun, they believe in Allah, they believe in His message, but they don't believe in the prophets. They don't believe in our prophet. And they'll say we believe in him, but then they'll reject everything that he said. That's not belief in the prophet. Or the Ahmadiyans, they believe in Allah. They believe in the messengers on their the angels, pardon me. They believe in Allah on their tongues. They believe in the angels on their tongues. They'll say they believe in the messengers, but guess what? They don't take any hadith of the prophet. Rather, they said that someone came after the prophet. And look, it said Ghulam. What is Ghulam in Arabic? Anybody know Ghulam? No. Ghulam هو يعني ماذا الولد يعني أو الصبيان بلغ البلوغ. He is a child. Sibyan means child. Walad means child. The Prophet said, Walad salihah yad'u lahu ba'da mawtihi. A righteous child that makes dua for the parent after his death. Walad, child. The Arabs don't get it twisted. When they say walad, they mean ibn. They say, yellow walad. He's saying to the boy, come on. He's using walad as boy. He will never say to the girl, yellow walad. They will never say to the girl in the feminine form, yalla yani walida, which means feminine child. They will say, yalla ta'ali ya bint. But for boys, they say walad. But walad means child. And the Prophet mentioned that when the person dies, everything stops, ceases, except three things. You won't benefit from any actions once you die, except three things. And I mean direct actions. Sadaqah that you gave, that's a continuous benefit for others. You have a masjid, you put a carpet, the carpet is 40 years old. Nobody changed that carpet, but they took good care of it. They shampoo it, they vacuum it, like Masjid Ahlul Sunnah, where we from in East Orange. We put that carpet down in 97. We laid the marble down in that masjid in 97. We put that carpet down. It's never been changed. You go there, it looks brand new. Shampooed, taken care of. Yani by a professional person who does floors and carpets. Everybody that prays on that carpet. Those who put 1 penny, 5 cents, a quarter, $1, 100, 1,000, yani, whatever they put, you get rewarded for that. When you die, you still get that while you're on your account. You're getting benefit. Maybe it's something that's protecting you from punishment. That deed, sadaqatul jariyah. This masjid, those brothers who brought it, then they were going to lose it, then somebody else stepped up to the plate. All of them get a continuous benefit out of the existence of this masjid. So as long as it stays, everybody who prays 20, 30 years later to get a reward. You plant a tree, someone takes the fruit from it, they eat it. And not a fruit that they shouldn't take, because some trees you shouldn't pull from. but a tree that they don't mind. It's for anybody to take. It's okay. Everybody knows there's no problem with pulling from that tree. The owner said it's waqf, charity for all, not somebody's personal property. Every time you eat, every time a berry falls, an animal eats it, a squirrel, yani a human, you drink a smoothie from that fruit, you eat it, yani in a salad, they get reward in their grave. Any knowledge you leave behind, any authentic knowledge you leave behind, that person benefits after your death. You can be dead 100 years. They're benefiting from it as if you're getting rewarded right now, although you lived 100 years ago. Knowledge that you left behind, good knowledge, not this bad poison knowledge. And the last thing the Prophet said, al-waladu salih. Al-waladu, the child, salih, who's righteous. Meaning, number one, they're Muslim. Salih mean they pray. Salih mean they believe in Allah correctly. They don't have to have all of the details, but they're not shammed and scammed in their belief. They're not going to say this stuff that we've been talking about. Or Allah doesn't have a hand, or Allah doesn't have a face. They believe in Allah, that's it. Point blank. They're going to make dua for the righteous parent, and that dua will be answered for that parent. The Prophet said, Waladu salih, yadu lahu ba'da mawtihi, after his death. So when you talk about that factor, that the child, the Prophet said, who makes dua for you, the righteous child is a Muslim, then we understand why for us the issue is Allah Azza wa Jal, then the prophets and messengers. Because we didn't meet Jibreel. We have to believe in the way that the message came through the vehicle. We have to believe in that way, those prophets and messengers. If we disbelieve, then we don't get any benefit. We lose the benefit. So gulam in Arabic, that last part of that hadith, waladu salih. Gulam means a boy who has just reached the age close to puberty. He's not in puberty yet, he's close. The Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith, Ya gulam. He said that to Abdullah ibn Abbas, who was on a riding donkey, riding behind him. He said, Inni uridu an u'allimuka kalimatin. He said, Ya gulam. In the hadith, the 19th hadith of Imam Nawawi. And his 40th hadith. That hadith tasi'a wa ashra, 19. The Prophet ﷺ said he was with, Abdullah ibn Abbas narrated the hadith. He said, Kuntu, ma'an Nabi sallam. I was with the Prophet. I was with the Prophet, meaning riding with the Prophet, behind him on an animal. And the same thing he said about Ma'ad. He was riding, Ma'ad said, Radifan, Khalf Nabi al-Himar. I was riding behind the Prophet on a donkey. The statement when he said Kuntu Radifan. Radifan means he's on another animal behind the Prophet, and not they're on the same animal he's riding behind the Prophet like on a motorcycle. No. That means the Prophet has an animal, the boy has an animal. He's trotting behind the Prophet is in front. This is the same thing that he said about Abdullah ibn Abbas. He's on the back of an animal, trotting behind him. He says, Ya Ghulam, talking like this, he's behind him. He said, Inni u'allimuka kalimat. I'm going to share something with you. Ihfad Allah. Preserve the limits of Allah. Yahfadaka, he will preserve you. Ghulam in this hadith. So here, Ghulam Ahmed means they took a young boy who wasn't even in puberty yet to be the Prophet. That is the Prophet of the Ahmadiyyans. Ghulam, that's why they call him Ghulam. He was a boy, came in a dream. They said, here's a prophet, here's our prophet. Ghulam Ahmed. Astaghfirullah. You believe this? They are the same people, again, that they will say they believe in prophets and messengers, but they reject our Nabi. They said that they don't trust that he's the last prophet, but that Ghulam Ahmed is their prophet. So this is one of the benefits of Imam Bayhaqi putting the fourth thing, belief in the messenger, second, because when you zoom in on that, then it makes it easy for you to believe in Jibreel, to believe in the books, to believe in the last day, to believe in the Qadr of Allah, Tabarak wa Ta'ala, the good and the bad, if you believe correctly in Allah and then those messengers. But if you mess up with the messengers, how can you believe in Jibreel? If you mess up with the messengers, how can you believe in Allah? Can't. So Imam al-Dhahabi mentioned second, believe in all of the prophets and messengers. Any questions before we go on? Sallallahu alayhim wa sallam ajma'in. Sallallahu alayhim. Him means all of them. Sallallahu alayhim wa sallam ajma'in. May Allah have His blessings bestowed and His protection upon all of those prophets, Ameen, and messengers. Ameen. The statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala we mentioned before, وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ كُلٌّ آمَنَ بِاللَّهِ. كُلٌّ means they say. كُلٌّ آمَنَ بِاللَّهِ. Who said that? Al-Mu'minun. So the believer has to say, آمَنُ بِاللَّهِ, I believe in Allah. وَمَلَائِكَتِهِ, His angels. وَكُتُبِهِ, His books, وَرُسُلِهِ, and His messengers. You have to say that. And you can't say it on the tongue and not believe it in the heart, because if you say it on the tongue and don't believe it in the heart, this makes you a munafiq. This makes you a munafiq. You have to say it and believe it in the heart. Hadith of Umar ibn Khattab is called the Hadith of Jibreel. Why is it called the Hadith of Jibreel? Anybody know? Hadith in Bukhari and Muslim. Hadith where the Prophet said, "And tu'minu billahi," that Iman is to believe in Allah. Wa malaikatihi, His angels, the same as the ayah. Wa kutubihi, His books. Wa rusuli. Why do we call it the Hadith of Jibreel?
Because Jibreel came and sat with the Rasulullah and asked him that question in front of the Sahaba.
MashaAllah. Because Jibreel came, sat with the Prophet ﷺ, and asked him those questions in front of the Sahaba. So this Hadith means the story. Hadith has many meanings. One of them, it means to speak. Hadith. Hadith has many meanings. One of them means to speak. Hadith. And Hadith also means what the Prophet said, did. And Hadith also means the speech of Allah. When Allah speaks, it's called Hadith. Hadith is also means time. Hadith. Hadith also means invention. Something that comes about for the first time. Hadith has many meanings, this word in the Lughat al-Arabiyyah. Huna, we say Hadith al-Jibreel, meaning the story of Jibreel. The speech of Jibreel to the Prophet in that story. That's why it's called Hadith al-Jibreel, or it's called Hadith al-Jibreel because Jibreel is the main subject in this Hadith, not the Prophet. Without Jibreel, would this Hadith be applicable? No. Jibreel came, walked in, he looked like the companion, Dihya ibn Kalbi, and because he looked like that companion, he resembled. Allah blessed him to come in the imagery of that companion. Everybody, recognized him when he came in, but he looked strange. His hair was too clean and black. The desert is dusty. His thobe was exceedingly white, and the desert is dusty. He came and sat down next to the Prophet. So they didn't panic because he looks like the companion. But his appearance is strange. He put his knees next to the knees of the Prophet. And he put his hands, we said this before, either on his own thighs or the thighs of the Prophet. That word could mean either or. Wada kafayhi, his two palms, ala fakhidayhi, on his thighs. What does the damir point to? The he is a damir in Arabic, a pronoun meaning his. Thighs, fakhid. Fakhidayhi, his thighs. So who does he refer to? The one who's speaking or the questioner? The one who's speaking, Jibril, his thighs, or the thighs of the one who's being questioned, the Prophet ﷺ. The scholars say, يَحْتَمِلُ هَذَا أَوْ هَذَا. It could take either or meaning. So he started to ask the Prophet. So that's why we call it Hadith Jibril alayhi salam. Jibril is a messenger from the angels, and the Prophet is a messenger from the human beings alayhi salam. The last time we said, is there a number that we can say is a known number for prophets? No. Some people have said there's some hadith that mentions the numbers of prophet. Some of them have mentioned that there are 25 prophets in the Quran. There's some hadith that mention more numbers than that. We don't have a particular number that's mentioned. You can read and count on your own, but a fixed dated number, we said there's no proof of that. That's what people have said from their, endeavors, from their, educated guess, or from some unofficial hadith. Allah said, Rusulan qad qasasnahum alayka min qabl. And there are some messengers, O Muhammad, that I have mentioned them to you from the past. Rusulan lam naqsus hum alayk. And we have some prophets and messengers, O Muhammad, that I have not discussed and told you about. That second part of the ayat shows you what? That the number is fixed or not fixed? Not fixed, yeah. Yeah. That second part of the ayat, clearly, the way it's revealed, we take it. We don't say, it doesn't mean that Allah didn't tell him. It means that Allah Azza wa Jal didn't want him to know all of the names, but he told him 25. Come on, that's somebody fishing without a fishing rod. Allah didn't tell him because Allah don't speak. It means Allah didn't make him aware of that. The Prophet didn't remember. Allah didn't make him remember. He changed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah didn't speak to the Prophet here. It meant that he didn't send him a message, in the dream. He denied the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala he speaks, and that he spoke to the Prophet. He told them about some prophets and some he withheld. So this is why the ulama, when they talk about a fixed number, they said there's no fixed number. Based on this ayat alone, it's a proof. Because if Allah told them about some prophets that came before him and some he didn't share with him, that means there's a number that nobody knows of prophets except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As for in the Quran, then if you say there's 25 prophets in the Quran, you could go through and read each prophet. And each time you get to a name, count. That's 1, 2, 3. But what about those prophets? It's debatable whether they were prophets or messengers or not. Like we said, who? It's debatable if he's a prophet. Khidr, it's debatable. So if you say he is, you count him, but I say he's not, then if he's included in the 25, with me it's going to be 20 what?
6.
No. 24. And if you say, no, he's a prophet, you count him as going to be 25. So you see, even the argument that's 25 in the Quran, there's no fixed number. What about those who say Dhul Qarnayn? You said Dhul Qarnayn is a prophet. You count him along with Khidr. So that's 26. I said, no, Dhul Qarnayn is not a prophet, neither is Khidr. Guess what? For me, that's 24. Again, Allah Musta'an. What about Mada Barakallahu Fiq, Uzair? Some said Uzair was a prophet. If I count Uzair, and I count Khidr, and I count Dhul Qarnayn, and the other prophets that we agree upon is 25. 25 plus 3 is what?
28.
28. Somebody said Luqman al-Hakim. Don't say he was from the Hukama, but some have tried to say he was a prophet too. What if I say no? Luqman was a prophet. So those 3 plus Luqman and the 25 that's agreed upon, read in the Quran, that's 20 what? No. 29. And you see, there's no fixed number of the prophets, in the Quran, nor in the Sunnah. And we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't lie. He says some prophets and messengers we have told you about, O Muhammad, they came before you, and some we have not told you about. And then Allah says at the end of the ayah, وَكَلَّمَ اللَّهُ مُوسَى تَكْلِيمًا, and Allah spoke to Musa directly. This ayah is the ayah that refutes the Jahmiyyah, the Mu'tazila, and the Asha'ir who say Allah lam yatakallam. Allah did not speak. Wallahu lam yakallim li Musa. Allah did not speak to Musa. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he says he speaks, it means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enlightened Musa, or that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala he speaks here means that Allah Azza wa Jal inspired Musa, or that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't mean that he spoke to Musa, rather he meant that Musa spoke to him. Allah Musta'an. So we believe in the prophets. They said Ijmalan. Ijmalan means we believe that Allah sent prophets and messengers. That's generally speaking. If you say that, that's sufficient. That's how we believe in the prophets and messengers according to this ayah and the hadith of Jibreel in general. And we believe in them individually as they have been proven. But to say it's 25 only, or that it's this amount or that amount, we don't have a fixed dated number to say that about the prophets and messengers. And whoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions a text about them, or the prophet, then we believe in that. And if there is somebody that is different upon them, the text is not clear, then we go with the Rajah. We go with what's most likely. So with Khidr, it's more likely that he's a prophet, because he said a statement that shows that he spoke from what Allah told him. He said, وَمَا فَأَلْتُ ذَلِكَ عَنْ أَمْرِي. And I did not do any of those things, Musa, that you questioned me about on my own, meaning Allah revealed to me to do them. That means he's a prophet. And the likes of those statements with regards to other proofs would have to be established in order to say he's a prophet. As far as Dhul Qarnayn, then he was a person who was a righteous leader and a king. And he was somebody that Allah Ta'ala mentioned that he will have dominion over the east and the west, but it's not enough to say he's a prophet. And Uzair, he said, was Abdul Salim in Bani Israel. He was a righteous monk from the people of Bani Israel, but not a prophet. Now, and most of them said Luqman al-Hakim, he was a wise man. Abdul Salim, a righteous worshipper, and he was not a prophet now. Believe in the Malaika. Believe in the Malaika. To believe in the angels. The same thing. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned believe in the angels, then we believe in them in general. We believe in all of them, that Allah has angels. The number, we can't put a certain number because we have not been given a number. And we believe in those angels if they are mentioned by name, like Jibril. We have to believe in Jibril because he's mentioned by name in the Quran and Sunnah. We have to believe in Mikael because Mikael is mentioned by name in the Quran and the Sunnah. When you talk about the other angels, then you will need some dalil to mention them by name. So again, Allah said, "Kullun amana billahi wa malaikati wa kutubi wa rasul." Malaika, you have to believe in all of the angels. What is the creation of the angel? Is the angel, from the creation of the human being?
No.
Like the people they make?
No.
Is the angel from the creation of the jinn, like people make?
No.
Is the angel from the creation of something particular to himself? What is the creation of the malaika?
Made out of light.
Made out of light. So the light there, that fluorescent light, the angels made out of that light.
No. A light that's particular to themselves.
A light that's particular to themselves. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. What is the malaika? Their original form. Or they females or males? Or they females like the kuffar make them and they say, Hum banatullah, they're the daughters of Allah?
No.
Or are they the sons of Allah?
No.
Or are they babies with wings? What is the image of the angels?
No.
What is the image of the angels? God sleeping.
No.
What is the image?
No.
What they look like? Like the
We
little
don't
baby
know.
naked with his
We don't know.
buttocks and wings.
We don't know.
You don't know.
No.
Jibril alayhi salatu wasalam, we know about him. How he came.
Form of a man.
Aywa, form of a man. So we know to come in the form of a man. The hadith of the Prophet said there was a man who was going to meet his brother. And another angel came in the form of a man, greeted him along the way. He gave salams back to that man that was an angel in the form of a man, handsome man. He said, where you going? He said, I'm going to visit my brother. He said, does he owe you any money? Do you expect something from him? Or you going to visit him because he's sick? Why are you going to visit him? He said, I'm not going to visit him because he owes me money. I'm not going because I want anything from him. I'm not going to visit him because he's sick. I'm only going to visit him for the sake of Allah. To be rewarded by Allah for simply visiting my brother. And then that angel told him that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made a place for you in the Jannah because you're going to visit your brother only for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned there's 7 people. يَذِلَّهُمُ اللَّهُ يَوْمَ لَا يَذِلَّهُمُ اللَّهُ فِي ذِلِّهِ يَوْمَ لَا ذِلُّ إِلَّا ذِلُّهُ, that Allah will give a shade to a person from his shade on the day when there's no shade. He mentioned 7 of them. First one, al-Imam al-Adil. Al-Imam Adil, the just Imam. This is why we have to give advice to one another as Imams. We have to remind one another as Imams. We have to tell one another, taqillah, as leaders. You can't let that person who is an Imam do something wrong just because he's your leader and you love him. You can't let that Imam ghash ra'atihi, be irresponsible for his flock. You can't let the Imam, Wallahu musta'an, be unjust. Because the Prophet said, Al-Imam adil, the just Imam. The just Imam, the fair Imam. The Imam who, Mada, is firstly fearful of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. He says what he does. And he doesn't say something and not do it. That he obeys Allah. And he doesn't preach obedience to Allah and not do it himself. That Imam, is a person fearful when it comes to the wealth of the believers and the welfare of the believers, and not someone who manipulates that for his own benefit, like the Prophet said will come in the end of the time. Leaders that will be deviant, astray in their actions, in their belief, in their being over their flock. Ulama asu, evil ulama, they have knowledge, they have that which is experienced, but they use it in a bad way. Al-Imam al-Adil, the just leader. Imam yushmal zawj. Imam includes if you're married to a woman. And the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam كلكم راع وكلكم مسؤول عن رعيته. All of you have a responsibility, and whatever you're responsible for, that's under your charge. You will be asked about it. And then the Prophet said, "رجل ماذا إمام في بيت في بيته وفي أهله أو كما قال," and that the man is the imam over his house and his family. هكذا إمام. وكذلك إمام ماذا إمام يصلي بالناس, the imam who his job is only to lead the salah. وإمام ماذا يحكم ذوي عدل منكم, the imam who judges as a just witness between you. والإمام ماذا ينشر الدعوة الصحيح, the imam who gives the correct da'wah to al-Islam. Al-Imam الذي يخطب, Al-Imam الذي يحكم, Al-Imam الذي يقاتل عدو الله وعدو المؤمنين, the imam who gives the khutbah, the imam who gives the verdict, the imam who fights the enemies of Allah and the enemies of the believer. Imam al-Adil, just imam. Wal-Imam كذلك ماذا قدوة, and imam also is an example. Hakada, Imam Adil. He's the first one who will have the shade on the day of judgment, that Allah will give a special shade when there will be no shade except that shade on the day of judgment. Allah make us from them. Ameen. Second thing, it said, shab nash'at fi ibadatillah, a youth that is raised up in the worship of Allah. What a job for parents. And you can do that and still Allah tests you with renegade children. But the child that grows up in the worship of Allah, one of the primary reasons they get that, because the parents worship in Allah and they set that example and make that environment for that child. So, shab nash'at fi ibadatillah, the child that grows up in the worship of Allah and they become an adult with that same worship, they're going to have that shade on the day of judgment that Allah is going to give them from a shade. There will not be any other shade but that shade. And then the Prophet ﷺ said, وَالرَّجُلَانِ تَحَابَّانِ فِي اللَّهِ, and two men that love Allah and two men that love one another just because of their Iman, just because to be rewarded by Allah for the sake of Allah. The Prophet said, يَجْتَمِعَ لِلَّهِ وَيَتَفَرِّقَا لِلَّهِ. They come together and meet just for Allah's sake, like in this narration. I don't owe you nothing. I don't want nothing from you. You're not sick. I'm just coming to visit you for the sake of Allah. And when they depart like that. Not because you pissing me off. I'm leaving. I'm out of here. I should have came to see you. Nah. You leave with love and peace like you came in love and peace. Nah. So this hadith, proof again, angels come in the form of man. That man came to ask him, and then he gave him glad tidings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves him because he's going to see his brother for Allah's sake, and that you will have a reward and a shade on the day of judgment for going to visit your brother for the sake of Allah. Now, this is a proof that angels come in the form of a man. Now, We'll stop inshallah 1:30 and pray. Now Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned the malaika khuliqa min nur. Yani Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned that they are created. The Prophet the Prophet mentioned they are created from nur. Hadith, not Allah. That's a mistake sometimes. Khulaq min nur. They are created from a special light. And this Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's Prophet mentioned authentic hadith. Allah Jal said, La ya'asun Allah ma amarahum. La ya'asun Allah ma amarahum. Then they do not disobey Allah in any commands they're given. If Allah give them a command, the angels, فَقْ بَيْنَ يعني الجن والإنس والملائكة, the belief that includes believing the angels, the difference between the angel, the human, and the jinn and the human, they obey and they disobey. They obey Allah and they disobey Allah. Amma malaika fala la ya'sun Allah ma amarahum. Allah said they never disobey Allah and what He commands them. Wa yaf'aluna ma yu'marun. And they only do obedience when Allah commands them to do something, they do it. Now, Allah Azza wa Jal also mentioned illa mutahharun. They are always in a state of purity. The angels are never in a state of najasa, janaba, la. Never. And this is from the ayah in Surah Al-Waqi'ah when Allah said, La yamassuhu illa mutahharun. Al-mutahharun. Wow means they're always doing that action. If Allah said illa mutahharin or illa al-tahir, then that can mean he's tahir now because he just made wudu. But then later on, he broke his wudu. So the alif tahir means you're doing that action. Why would you have to do an action? Because the word tahiru, ala wasn't fa'ilu, means you're doing the action. Anytime the first letter is elongated and the second letter and the third letter is a kasra and a dhamma, tahiru. That means you're doing the act that the word represents. So the word is tahara, to purify. Tahara, he purified. Tahiru means he's doing the act of purification. How do you do the act of purification? Wudu. You guys sleeping? Subhanallah. La ilaha illallah. Maybe we need to go to ghusl and throw some water on you guys. So tahiru is someone doing the act of purification. So the fact that Allah said illa mutahharun, those who are always pure, that means the malaika, Abdullah ibn Abbas said. And that's how we know that that ayah can't be used to say that you only touch the Quran when you're in wudu. Some people try to use that ayah in Surah Al-Waqi'ah, la yamassuhu, none touches it, meaning the Mus'haf. Illa mutahharun, except you're in purification. But the ayah didn't say illa tahir. If the ayah say illa tahiru, that means except you in wudu. But the ayah say illa mutahharun. The meme here, meme fa'il, the one who's doing action. Mutahhiru. Mutahhirun, those who are pure all the time, the angels. So it's another characteristic that makes the angel different from men and jinn. They never leave the state of purity, which means they don't go to the bathroom, they don't have sex, they don't do any worldly or earthly things, except they come, give a message, they don't eat, they don't drink. In the story of Ibrahim, when they came and Ibrahim didn't recognize them, and then, when they didn't eat, he's like, no, something's really up with these cats. But they don't eat. Then they had to tell him who they were, and then he became relaxed because prophets and messengers, they believe in the malaika. They're told how to believe in them. They know they don't eat and drink. This is part of their nubuwwah. Each thing Allah told them to believe in, they get all the details. Once you know that they're prophets and messengers, but they're angels coming in the form of a prophet and a messenger or a person, then you know, okay, they don't eat because Allah already told me that. I didn't know who they were at first. But Ibrahim was afraid because they appeared, out of nowhere, then, they came to him and they want, to talk with him, and, they gave the greetings, and then he prepared food for them, because this is the way you honor the guests, and they don't want to eat, but he's going to eat. Something is strange about these people. But they didn't eat, which is another characteristic of the Malaika. As far as Allah Musta'an, the hadith that mentions that the angels, that Harut wa Marut, and we'll stop here. The hadith, they are mentioned in the Quran, but there's a hadith that mentions that Harut wa Marut, two angels, they themselves were two angels, were shariba khamra. They drank and got drunk. They drank wine. ثم وقع في فاحشة. Then they made zina. فمسخهم الله كوكبين. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cast them between the stars. هذا حديث لا تصح. This hadith is not authentic. And they tried to use the likes of these to say that the angels, wallahu musta'an, they were falling jinns. This is part of the story where they say that Iblis was a fallen angel, meaning he disobeyed Allah and became a jinn. Likewise, they tried to say Harut or Marut. Here you see they disobeyed Allah. They drank, they got drunk, they made zina. Allah cast them between the stars and disgraced them. So this tries to depict that angels are like humans, they're like jinns, and that they are, that which they are falling angels, they became jinns. So thus, Iblis was an angel, but when he disobeyed Allah, he became a jinn. La, hada laysa sahih. And this will stop here for the belief in the Malaika. هذا وصلى على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. Any questions? Stop? Huh? No? Any questions?
No.
You guys awake?
Yes.
So what's a Malaika?
Angel.
No, I said Malaika.
Malaika.
Malak is angel. Malaika plural, angels.
Angels.
Okay. Tell you, what are they created from?
Light that's specific to themselves.
Okay. Are they considered fallen angels?
No. Why?
What is a fallen angel? One that was an angel got demoted to a jinn because of disobedience. Tell you, the angels, are they somebody that, or female or male?
No.
None.
Male?
Male.
Male. Tell you, do they come in the form of men or boys?
Men.
Tell you, can we say there's a certain number of them?
No.
And who was the head of all of the angels?
Jibreel. Alayhi salam.
Barakallahu feek. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.